Hi, my name is Amin Hussein, and here is my presentation. Today, my topic will be on why does the commercialization of higher education conflict with the true purpose of academic learning? So, in recent times, we have seen a growing trend where education is increasingly becoming a commercial activity. Colleges and universities were once considered to be institutions for critical thinking and learning, but are now often seen as businesses where the primary focus is financial gain. This commercial perspective has led to a range of practices that shape the ways courses are marketed and led to the prioritization of certain programs over others based on their profitability. The original goal of higher education was to create an environment where free thought and inquiry could thrive. Universities were meant to be places where students and faculty could focus on academic pursuits without external pressures. This environment was designed to not just prepare individuals for careers, but also to contribute to their personal growth, develop their critical thinking skills, and equip them to be informed, engaged citizens. However, this shift towards a more business-like approach can be in conflict with these traditional academic values. Now we will explore the reasons for this conflict and the implications it has for our society's mental and intellectual well-being. The purpose of higher education. Historically, the purpose of higher education has been to cultivate well-informed citizens, promote critical thinking, and contribute to the advancement of knowledge. Traditionally, universities were only focused on learning and a place where the pursuit of truth and the exchange of ideas were the highest goal. Scholars and educators focused on developing students' intellectual capabilities, enabling them to think independently and engage constructively in societal discourse. This classical view of higher education saw its role not only in terms of preparing individuals for the job market, but as a transformative process, contributing to the intellectual and moral growth of individuals. In this way, the goal of the educational system is to encourage students to explore diverse disciplines and foster a culture of academic inquiry. Valuing education as an end in itself, the goal was not only to produce skilled professionals but also well-rounded individuals capable of contributing to the cultural capital of society. The rise of commercialization. Universities were once heavily subsidized, but are now embracing a model where education is a commodity. With reduced government funding, institutions have shifted the financial responsibilities to students, with tuition fees climbing sharply. This comes from an ideological change that began in the late 20th century, where higher education was increasingly seen as a private benefit rather than a public one. As a consequence, the burden of financing a college education has been transferred to students through loans, advertised as beneficial investments. This led to a substantial rise in student debt and college costs. Such commercialization challenges the foundational principle of higher education by compromising its accessibility and burdening students with financial pressures, undermining the essence of academic learning for societal benefit. The influence of the forms of capital on higher education. In Pierre Bourdieu's concepts of the forms of capital, he introduced the idea that capital goes beyond the economic sense, encompassing cultural and educational forms as well. Cultural capital includes knowledge, skills, and education, while educational capital refers to qualifications and credentials acquired through the education system. These forms of capital are essential in academic fields as they shape educational journey and influence social mobility. This transformation is crucial to understanding the conflict between commercialization and the essence of academic learning. As degrees become commoditized, they are treated like economic assets with their value determined by scarcity and market demand. This dynamic shifts the focus of education from learning and intellectual development to the economic returns of degree acquisition. The university's role evolves from being a place of learning to a facilitator of economic transactions where qualifications are a currency exchanged for future financial security. Boyer's perspective helps to understand how the educational process is obscured by the drive for economic capital, leading to a system that values degrees for their marketability rather than the educational merit, and diluting the intrinsic goals of academic learning. The coddling of the American mind perspective. Lukianoff and Haidit's article, The Coddling of the American Mind, the authors argue that the trend toward protecting students from uncomfortable ideas is a disservice to education and mental health. This perspective is crucial when examining the commercialization of higher education. As universities become more market-driven, they can be tempted to create environments that shield students from academic rigor and intellectual challenge to maintain enrollment numbers and student satisfaction. This practice can result in a watered-down curriculum and a decline in the robust exchange of ideas, essential components of true academic learning. This is a shift in higher education toward viewing students as paying customers. This customer-oriented approach can prioritize customer satisfaction over educational rigor, which is at odds with the values of academic learning. As institutions become more commercially driven, they will increasingly cater to the desires and comfort of students to secure their business and will avoid strategies that might cause discomfort but are essential for intellectual growth. The consequences of this commercial approach is that it undermines the development of critical thinking skills and limits students' exposure to diverse perspectives, which are integral to the learning process. In this way, the protective measures motivated by commercial incentives are in direct conflict with the essence of higher education, which is to prepare students not just for the marketplace but for the complexities of the world at large. The impact of commercialization on students. The commercialization of higher education is leading to increased tuition fees as colleagues seek to fund facilities and programs that make them more attractive in the competitive market. As a result, students are facing soaring levels of debt. The promise of higher education as an investment in one's future is overshadowed by the financial burden it imposes, which follows graduates for decades. The market pressures on schools to maintain a certain image and offer amenities contributes to the rising cost. However, these enhancements do not necessarily translate into better educational outcomes. Instead, they create a cycle where students take on more debt, hoping the degree will pay off. Yet they do not always receive the comprehensive education that would justify the expense. In addition, the focus on marketable features can divert funds from essential academic services and support systems that are not as visibly appealing but are crucial for student success. The long-term consequence is that students may pay more for an education that is less focused on their intellectual and personal growth and more on the institution profit margin. This undermines the true purpose of academic learning, which is to foster critical thinking, creativity, and a deep understanding of one's field, because these are qualities that are not measurable by immediate financial returns. After considering these insights, we have seen how the increasing commercialization of higher education conflicts with its fundamental purpose. This trend towards treating education as a commodity undermines its original mission of fostering critical thinking, creativity, and a deep understanding of various fields. As universities adopt a business model, financial pressures overshadow the pursuit of knowledge, and the marketability of degrees takes precedence over the quality of learning. The impact of this shift is significant. Students acquire significant debt due to rising tuition costs, while the true essence of higher education is diluted. This has led to an environment where facilities and services are geared more towards attracting revenue rather than enhancing the educational experience. For these reasons, we must consider how we can steer higher education back towards its original goals. It is essential that academic institutions reassess their priorities and align them with the true needs of students and society. Only by doing so can we ensure that higher education remains a place of learning, development, and progress. It is not just about resisting the commodification of education, but about reaffirming the value of knowledge and learning as the true goals. By realigning our educational practices with these principles, we can begin to resolve the conflicts that commercialization has introduced. Thank you for listening to my presentation.